Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode one of Brown Mind Games. This episode is titled Journey to Great Britannia, and it will speak about my experiences of, coming to Great Britain and the changes I experienced as a child and growing up in the UK, really. So, I came to the UK way back in, I think it was 1997, 1998. All I remember, I believe I was 4 or 5. Coming to England, I guess it was never something I really dreamed of. It wasn't really anything I even thought of. I mean, I was so young, basically. And I guess when you're that young, you just kind of have to do whatever your parents really do. I mean, who's going to really listen to a 4, 5-year-old child? And obviously, at that age, where my mum is going, that's where I'm going to go. Honestly, I don't really have any sort of recollection of that time. I don't really remember ever arriving at Heathrow Airport. I don't ever remember sort of getting in the car, journeying to sort of like what is now my hometown. I mean, I kind of was just, I grew up in like a small village where everyone knew each other. I had a very large family. I had all my aunts, my uncles, my cousins were all around, and then I had my grandparents as well. It all really just seems like sort of one big blur, really. I feel like I've always just been in the UK. Like, to me, if someone was to ever ask me, how was the first 4 to 5 years, growing up in Pakistan, I honestly couldn't tell you. I mean, there's loads of photos, but I don't even remember those memories. I don't remember those times. And, you know, sometimes, even now, growing up, you'll meet some of those aunts and uncles or cousins and they'll tell you things. And, you feel almost quite bad because you're like, I have no recollection of, who you are. I don't have any recollection of the memory you're sharing. But they say it with so much love that, sometimes it almost sort of makes you feel guilty. Fast forwarding just a little bit, I guess. So I was at the age where I was ready for school and I didn't really have much time to sort of adjust, to adjust to anything in the UK, to understand the culture or even the language. And, I felt like I had been here almost a day and all of a sudden, I'm starting school. And obviously in the UK, we have what's called infant school. And that's, years 1 and 2. I guess I have one very cool memory of the first day of school, and I'll still remember it, to this day, where I kind of went in and, I didn't speak any English whatsoever. So I either speak, Urdu or I speak Punjabi. And I just remember sort of, being this like 4 foot, not even 4 foot, I guess, but like just this little kid and just walking in to a room full of 30 kids. And I guess one thing that was nice was the fact that, the the kids were basically mostly Asian. There were a few white kids, a few black kids, but the area that I grew up in was predominantly Asian. So I guess I found comfort in that. However, they all sort of spoke English, and I had no idea about English. I didn't know any words. I think the only thing I knew how to say was like hello. And the memory I guess I remember is the so during lunchtime, obviously you'd have what we called the dinner ladies, and these were the women that would only come in, for the lunch hour, and they would just sort of look after sort of each class or the kids, making sure they eat and they go outside to play and things like that. And I remember it was quite cold and I didn't have a jacket. Just because I came from Pakistan, which was a hot country, so I didn't really have a jacket at the time. I feel like my mum wasn't able to sort of prepare for school as well as she could have, but it's okay. But yeah, so I didn't really have a jacket, and I remember standing in a line waiting to sort of go out onto the playground, and this white dinner lady basically saying to me like, "Oh, do you not have a jacket?" And I kind of just stared at her, just absent-mindedly. I'm just there like I don't know what you're saying, basically. And then I remember the girl in front of me, she turned around and she, in sort of Bahari, so that's another sort of dialect of Punjabi Urdu, and it's predominantly spoken by people that come from Mirpur and Kodli. And she basically turned to me and said, "Oh, she's asking if you have a coat." And I responded to her saying, "No, I don't have a coat." And I remember the dinner lady sort of trying her best, but it felt really awkward at the time, where because in order to sort of make herself understood, she was saying, "Coat, no coat." And again, I had no idea. I didn't even know what a coat was. I didn't know what a jacket was. It was just, and I remember that memory to this day. Yeah, and I guess as the years went on, I eventually did pick up English. I made some friends, and life generally was quite simple. It was just sort of go to school, do your homework, play with your friends after school, or on the weekends. There was nothing really that you had to sort of worry about as a child. Growing up in the UK, I guess as a brown guy, for me personally, it has been a pleasant experience. I'm not going to sit here and say that it was all doom and gloom, and I really wanted to go back to sort of my country, and I missed my family and things like that. No, because that would be a lie. If anything, I really have enjoyed growing up in the UK. I would consider the UK my home more than I would sort of Pakistan, because all my friends are here, my family is here, and all the sort of life experiences that I've had, have been in the UK. So to me, going back home now is just it's a holiday. It isn't somewhere that I'd think, oh, you know what, like, yeah, this is my home. I mean, I guess it's where I originate from, and I will always value my culture, and I'll always uphold that this is where I come from. I will never forget my roots. But in terms of where I guess I call home, it would be the UK. I found the UK to be a very diverse place, and not just in sort of skin color, as in I met white people, black people, people from East Asia, all sort of races and ethnicities, but also different cultures. I have experienced Afro-Caribbean culture, which generally I find Afro-Caribbean culture plays a huge part in being brown, because from the way we speak, to the music we listen to the way we dress, I feel like as a brown guy, African and Caribbean culture has played a huge role in shaping sort of our identities. And this is something I would like to speak about in more detail in another episode, so I don't want to go into too much right now. But I definitely would say, from my own experience, sitting with all of these different races and ethnicities and experiencing all of these different cultures has really opened my mind to so many different ideas, so many different thoughts that there are out in the world. Someone once kind of said, that if you want to know more about yourself, then go travel, sit with different people and learn from them. And I've learned many different things. Some things I like, some things I dislike, but it really has shaped who I am as a person today. And that is one thing I will be grateful for in the UK. I feel like that is an experience that I may not have gotten if I was still living in Pakistan, because of course it, even though the people might be different, the culture is all the same. So that's one thing that I really do enjoy, and I really am grateful for growing up in the UK. That experience of other cultures, of other languages, of even things like having being introduced to so many different types of food. I wonder, if I was still a brown kid, living in my little village that was sort of closed off from the rest of the world, would I have got to experience all the things that I have experienced? Would I be playing the game that I'm playing right now? I know times have changed, but I don't think it would be the same. I feel like my life would be completely different. And it's often funny, because when I speak to sort of relatives, back home, and even especially growing up, they always used to say to me, "Oh, do you miss Pakistan? Do you miss us?" And I always felt very guilty, because I never did. And it was only years later where I sort of realized that it was kind of okay to feel that way, because I don't remember anything from that country, and I don't remember the experiences and the memories that you guys are speaking about. My life has even though I came here when I was like 4 or 5 years old, my life has always been in the UK. And that's why, thinking about it, I always found it funny when, I would hear people say things like, oh, go back to your country, or, you're not from here, or you're not British enough, and things like that. And it's like, honestly, I've always sort of questioned what that term meant, being British, because it's like, what is it? Is it having Sunday roast? Is it speaking English? Is it, enjoying a nice cup of tea? Because for me, generally, being British was just always about growing up in the UK. It was always just, experiencing everything that the country had to offer, and I feel like I have done that. And ultimately, I do call this place my home, and I can't really imagine. I can't really imagine, growing up anywhere else. It's a very strange sort of feeling to think like, how different my life would have been, if I never came here, if I never sort of met the people that I met, my friends, and just being educated, and like I've always just felt like, yeah, this is the place I belong. I guess if the question is, do I consider myself British? I'll be honest with you, that's something that I've never really thought about, and it's something that's never ever really crossed my mind, not until recently. And maybe in another episode, I can go into more detail about, what that means for me, being British. We are sort of coming to the end of the episode, so before I run out of time, I guess I just want to say thank you guys. If you're still here, thank you for tuning into the first episode, and I will. My goal really is to make an episode every week and drop it as well as I can. I promise to do the best I can, for my friends out there that kind of pushed me to begin this sort of journey. The aim of the channel is mostly, to speak about the experiences of sort of the brown community, and that doesn't just necessarily mean Pakistanis, it's everyone that considers themselves brown, and it's just through my experience, and I hope that, through my experience, you guys can share in that and relate to those experiences as well. Let me know in the comments, how you found this episode. I'm open to feedback and advice. If you'd prefer longer episodes, then please do let me know. I kind of kept this one short because it is the first one that I've ever sort of made, and I'm kind of new to this whole YouTube thing, so I'm just sort of testing out the waters to see how things are. But yeah, guys, please, leave me feedback, leave me comments, and tell me about your experiences. What was it like? Did you come here to the UK? Were you born here? I would love to sort of read those and get to know, what it was like for other people. So I'm hoping to sort of drop an episode every week, so mostly Saturday or Sunday. It really depends because, I do work Monday to Friday. But yeah, guys, just, if you're interested in following this journey and just sharing in the experience, then, please do subscribe and like the video and share if you can. But thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next week. Bye.